All right, let's kick this off. So, first of all, less than 2 hours till Classic is out. I know for myself personally, I'm sure many of you, it's been months and months in the making, maybe even years if you were some of those people that played way back in the day and just been begging for it with the community. But we're almost there, which is exciting. So quick housekeeping, super fast. Um, I have an agenda we're going to run through. We are going to take questions at the very end. So if you have questions, feel free to join Tark's stream that we posted down in the channel below, or add them to our Discord. Tark's going to be throwing them my way as soon as we are ready to get to that point. So with that said, let's jump in. First of all, my name is Josh. In the game, you'll know me as Hugs. I'm going to be playing one of your favorite priests, your pocket healer. A little bit about me. I have led vanilla guilds in the past. Originally, we had Requiem back in vanilla, which I'll actually get to a little bit later on. But I've led a few different guilds in the past. I've led a few different video game groups as well. I have other leadership skills. Luckily, I actually manage and am director of a software company right now. So I like to think that I've picked up a few skills along the way, and hopefully those will translate to helping us all out, kind of see our goals, and just have some fun and enjoy it. With me, I have my assistant GM, Dre. Dre, say hi really fast.
Hey folks, how you doing?
So Dre and I have known each other since vanilla. He was actually my original warlock off. We we absorbed his guild back in the day, and since then we've been pretty much inseparable. So really excited to have him come back with us as well. And at the moment, not all of them are currently available, but we do have some officers that I wanted to quickly kind of. So we have Tark. For anyone joining the stream, that's Barracks. He is one of our PvP officers, with Az being our second. Ishu and Kalai will be joining us. Ishu is planning on helping out with our loot management, and Kalai is actually going to help out with some more community management roles and responsibilities there. And then we actually have Zum and Glenlivet, who will be helping us out currently in some class officer roles, and I'll talk about those a little bit later as well. So, let's talk about Requiem. For anyone that's new, or anyone that did not read the blocks of text that we have, or anyone that may have missed things, as our Discord's actually been pretty active, I figured it'd be good to kind of give you a bit of a history, a bit of what we did back in the day, and then talk about what we're actually looking for. So, Requiem was actually started in the summer of 2005 on a server called Scylla, which was actually a fresh server at the time. So you can imagine that we were only around for roughly 8 months before BC, and that was a pretty exciting time for us. We started raiding pretty much right away. We were in ZG and Molten Core, and we grew very quickly, and we started raiding incredibly quickly as well. We focused on PvE quite a bit, so we started off in ZG, then we quickly went to Molten Core, and then we went all the way through BWL before we more or less ran out of time. We actually started our MC run. Our very first Lucifron kill was with 27 people in a lot of greens and blues. That's how fresh we were. And luckily, we were able to expand and really kind of grow as a guild and fill ourselves out completely to the point where we were pushing content and were seen as one of the top horde guilds in the server. PvP was not uncommon to many of us. As soon as PvE was done, we had dedicated PvP. I myself got to rank 11, mostly because I wanted my nice mount, but we had plenty of people that were focused on not just Battlegrounds, but also World PvP, which was always exciting and a really big factor as to why we chose a PvP realm in the first place. After Vanilla, BC came, and we ended up disbanding soon after BC launch, maybe about a month or two into it. BC brought a lot of challenges. Specifically, there was no more 40-man raid composition. Everything was down to 10 to 25, and that made it difficult to manage a guild as our size that had pushed content that far. So we ended up splitting off. Many went to one of my officers ended up starting a guild called Incursio, while others, including myself, focused more on the PvP side and ended up forming our own sets of guilds. BC was still really active. It was still a really good time for everyone, but for the most part, that was essentially where Requiem sort of ended, which is what's actually really exciting. Requiem was only roughly around in vanilla for about 8 months, and we lost contact with many of you guys over time. Dre and I kept to get in touch, and a few others as well. But many of us, we maybe were friends on Facebook, maybe we chatted every once in a while, but for the most part, we lost contact. It was hard to keep contact back in the early 2000s. We have a number of returning members from Requiem way back in the day, people that we've kept up with for years, people that came right back into our chat like it was yesterday. And that type of camaraderie, that type of, connection that we've created in such a short time is really the reason that I'm so excited to have this guild pick back up and get started all over again. You can actually see this. There's a reference to it in a recent IGN article that was published where Dre was quoted and kind of talked about our story of how we found a lot of our members and how we've rebuilt the guild again, which is incredibly exciting and really just encouraging that we have all these people coming back together for that same sort of purpose, but we're much more mature, we're much more focused. We have a mindset where we want to succeed as a group, and we are better. We have the best tools to really make that possible. Now, when we decided that we were going to be playing together, obviously we're all waiting for the servers. Like the servers were a really big factor, and they announced very, very close to the actual launch. And we ultimately ended up deciding on Grobbulus. To give you a little bit of background, I've never played on an RP server myself. Many of the other returning members have never played as well. So Grobbulus was an interesting choice. And I can tell you personally, I was a little bit skeptical at first. Not being on an RP server, I didn't know what to expect. But I was very quickly convinced for a few different reasons. First, Grobbulus, as an RP PvP server, is the only one of its type. It is unique, and with a unique server, you get a lot of benefits. It might say it has a time zone, but it's essentially time zone agnostic. You might say that you're looking for an RP side of things, but the RP can happen, in different pockets. You get a community that's going to stay in place, and they're really going to, remain, as opposed to potentially the tourists or people that want to jump in and out kind of freely. Essentially, Grobbulus was stable, and the community was going to be active, and it was very much very easy decision for us to determine that we were going to roll there. Even with all the drama that you may or may not know about when it comes to Grobbulus that have happened in the last couple weeks, it's someplace that we were very excited about, and we decided to stay. And quite honestly, I couldn't be more excited to roll on Grobbulus and really see what that server. Not to mention, we actually have a number of people, as we've been recruiting, that are interested in the RP side of things. So I'm personally really excited to kind of see what that feels like as someone that's played, Dungeons and Dragons and other games like. I think it's going to be really exciting for a lot of our guild members to be involved in a lot of RP events and to, be involved in that world PvP and see a different side of WoW that many of us have never seen before. So it should be pretty great overall. All right, that's background. Let's talk about Requiem today. So I made it really clear in the guild charter and with the group of the expectations that I wanted the guild to have, but really just the mindset for everyone that was going to be. I've seen a lot of guilds that have buckled under their own weight, or a lot of guilds that were mismanaged appropriately, a lot of guilds that ended up being corrupt, and it just doesn't really work for me. This is a game, and I personally feel like in a game you should have fun and not be thrown off by any negative impacts or any greedy or selfish desires at all. So first and foremost, I'm very much of the mindset that, and I know this is kind of a cliche, but the one team, one dream sort of mindset. We're all collectively in this together. We are all trying to do this together. We are stronger together. And when it comes to anything, PvE, PvP, when it comes to decisions within the guild, I'd rather we're all kind of involved in that somehow, or at least we're all willing to support one another and offer our ideas and our support wherever possible. So things like, you know, uh, gathering for the guild and helping the guild out in whatever way possible is kind of a mindset for me. It's a staple to the guild. We should all feel empowered that when we get on, we have the people in place to make sure that we all have the best time possible. Because at the end of the day, if you're logging on to have fun, you should log on feeling secure that you're going to have fun and not wonder who's going to be on and what your experience is going to be like. It should always be great. I want us to have a very fun mindset, but also in a gaming perspective, be very professional. It's 2019, folks. Sexism, racism, all this nonsense, it's all out the door. I'm looking to make sure that the guild has a very, very level head and presents itself accordingly. You guys, I mean, you're all adults. We should be all of the mindset that we're all kind of focusing on this together, and we're all presenting ourselves in a way that is good, that is positive, and people aren't, kind of putting a bad name to what we're trying to stand for. Requiem as a guild, I want to have diplomatic ties to other guilds. I find that sister guilds and coalitions there are really helpful, but we are independent as a group. I don't want us to rely on any other guilds. I don't want us to be dependent on any. We are our own group, and we should be able to empower one another to really make sure that we're all on the same page. But at the same time, knowing that there are others to help us, and we should help out, our faction, even without the RP side of things. Helping out the horde is going to be a really fun thing for us to do, especially for bigger events like the AQ event and things like that. And then finally, around core values, I care about transparency. I am never going to pretend to be the smartest person in the room, nor will I ever try to hold back key ideas or decisions that we're going to make. If there's a decision that's going to impact many people, I'd rather we all talk about it than me go behind closed doors with a handful of people and come back and say, here's the decision. I want to make sure that people feel heard, because at the end of the day, if everyone buys into the same idea, then we're all on the same page. The second you start instituting new ideas and new decisions that someone doesn't like, you start to sow seeds of doubt, and that's never going to be, present itself in a positive. All right, let's talk about some of the more mechanical items. First, I'm not going to force leveling requirements. No one needs to be 60 in the first week or two. Unfortunately, I am going to no life this first week because why not? But I don't expect that of anyone else. This is meant to be fun. Some people want to sit back and enjoy the game. They want to take their time. That's totally acceptable. And if you need help, we're here for you. Some people want to, level as quickly as they can. Some people want the medium. Ultimately, your leveling experience should be your own, because you only really get to do it once for the very first time, and then you can obviously have your ults. But this is a really fun, exciting experience where you get to try it all over again. So we want to make sure that people take their time if they feel it's necessary and enjoy it. Have a good time. Let's get into PvE. This is kind of near and dear to my heart. So PvE and PvP are obviously the biggest factors for what we're doing in this game, right? PvE is going to be something that I personally want to see us succeed on, because the content that we saw in Requiem back in the day was not everything that we really wanted to see. And content in general is something that you can only see if you really are committed and you really have the right goals and mindset in place. So I personally have goals to get us through as much content as I can, as quickly as we can, without this idea of a hardcore mentality. What that means is I'm not looking to raid 8 hours a day, 5 days a week. I'll talk about the raid times and days in a little bit, but really, I don't want anyone to feel like, we're trying to push content as quickly as we can, because that can lead to burnout. It can lead to a lot of people not being able to do it. And again, we're all adults. We all have responsibilities at this point. We can't be expected to be doing that nowadays. What I do expect is that when we go into raids, we are efficient and effective. And I'll talk about that a little bit later. In the first month or two, depending on the leveling and how things are going, I expect that we'll be doing some pug raids with others on the server. I've already made an announcement to the leadership on the Grobbulus Discord, and I've already had people reach out saying they're interested. So as we see people hit 60, then we will work with you to get attuned, and we will make sure that you are ready to go so that you can, effectively start raiding with us and getting the gear that we need to succeed. So definitely stay tuned for that. If you're interested, obviously let me know. If you go to our roster sheet that we put together, you can put in the time frame, if you haven't already, for what you expect to be able to level up to 60 in. That's actually helped us a ton to be able to forecast, which is why I say the first month. It could be 2 months, but the first month I think we're going to see a lot of 60s ready to go, which is really exciting. So what that means is that as we continue to level and as we get ready for raids, the pug raids, we're going to start filling out more and more members. At some point we'll have a dedicated group, and a dedicated group will help us raid for a while, and that group's going to fill out and that group's going to fluctuate, and that's fine. Everyone's going to figure out what time is the most effective to be able to raid. They're going to figure out their specs. They're going to figure out what they want to do. They're going to figure out if they appreciate what our guild Requiem is all about. So I expect the group to change over time, but as all time does, things will iron out and we'll effectively have a very strong group in place. So if you are interested in raiding, obviously we are wanting to know that. The sheet gives us a lot of that detail, but especially once you hit 60, if you're ready to go, let's start talking about it, and we'll make sure that you are as prepared as possible with attunements, prebis, so on. So when it comes to raiding, there's a couple things I want to talk about when it comes to the leadership and responsibilities. For anyone that remembers back in old school Requiem days, I did everything because at the time I was not a great delegate. That won't be the case this time. We have people in place to help us push the raids faster. So what does that mean? It means that I am more than happy to continue leading raids. I have much experience in that realm. Like I have many kills in that space, so I feel good about that. And Dre, the assistant GM, will be main tanking for us. So you have solid leadership in place to help out with both those different areas. We have someone that's going to help us be responsible for managing loot throughout the raids. That will not be me. We have someone that's going to help out managing, skinning the core hounds and getting everything else we need. So all that's going to be taken care of, because I don't want to have any sort of granny strategies. I don't want to take too much time kind of sitting down and kind of figuring things out. When I say that we're progressing, we're progressing. Like these are bosses that we can kill. MC and Oni are not hard raids, so we should be able to get through them fairly quickly. Maybe not the first time, but over time, absolutely. In addition to the leadership there, the class officers that we'll be working with, we have 2 announced right now. We're working to get some others as well. The class officers are going to help to really kind of instruct their respective classes and make sure that everyone's kind of keeping up. DPS is low, specs are off, whatever it might be. They're going to work with you guys to make sure that everything's kind of rounded out, and that's going to be pretty key for us to make sure that everyone's on the same page. I don't need to micromanage your raid. I just want to make sure that everyone understands the strategy and the pace, and the class officers will work with you around the actual process and getting yourself ready to go. All right, let's talk about the loot system, because I know this has been a big question. We've talked about it in a few different areas, but I want to address first and foremost. Requiem back in the day focused on DKP, which I found to be more or less fairly ineffective. DKP doesn't really account for a lot of different aspects, and it's a little bit harder to manage. And ultimately, attendance is great and all, but also I don't want to just reward attendance. I want to reward the people that really put in the effort and the people that it makes sense to upgrade, not just the people that are there more often. So I decided that we would take on a bit of a unique loot council system, or at least a customized one. I didn't want to follow the standard. So the loot council will be determined by class officer, but it'll be a little bit different. So when it comes to class specific gear, aka tier gear, the class officers will be working with their respective groups to make sure that those people get the right upgrades at the right time. And I'll be keeping a lookout for that to make sure that our class officers, as much as I love them, will not be doing something like gearing themselves up. That's not going to be something that we're going to address. And the class officers that we have in place so far have already made sure that that's not in their mindset. Everyone should be getting the proper gear, because the gear that we're getting should be what's going to make us most effective in raids. Not so much, this person's really low on the chart or whatever it might be. We want to help out everyone inside the guild. When it comes to class agnostic gear, that'll be a little bit different. The class officers will get each person within their class that's interested in the piece of gear to announce that they're interested. and then each respective class officer will nominate the person they feel is most deserving, and it'll be a conversation between the class officers. If there's disagreement, I will be the bad guy, make the decision. Ultimately, we're all trying to do this together. Really, I want loot to feel very, very good for everyone as a whole. As a priest, if I see someone pick up an amazing weapon like a Bone Reaver's Edge, I'm really happy because the guild is now going to benefit. I feel like I've almost gotten that myself because the guild as a whole is now stronger. That's the mindset I want when it comes to loot. If you don't get something right away, you will get it, and the guild itself will be able to get you that faster. And that's key for us to really keep in mind. In addition to just general priority on loot, there is a standard priority. Our main tank and our off tank will obviously be geared as quickly as possible because they are the standouts for the raid. If we don't have a geared main tank and off tank, obviously we won't do very well. So that's kind of a standard staple. Just keep it in mind. Legendary. I don't need to talk about Aziesh right now. We're just going to talk about Thunder Fury and Sulfurous. So Thunder Fury, it's a main tank weapon. I mean, I think 99% of you would agree with. I mention it because back in the day, we had a lot of drama around our Thunder Fury dropped, our bindings, and I'm not interested in that. So there's a hard reserve on Thunder Fury. Dre, our main tank, as long as he's not the worst. Dre will be getting our Thunder Fury, and then we will figure out our next warrior off tank to get the next one as soon as that conversation takes place. The Sulfurous is a little bit different. As someone that played Requiem back in the day as an enhancement shaman, which is not the best at the time, as an enhancement shaman, I actually got the Sulfurous for the raid, though it was mostly the raid and the guild kind of gifting it to me. Please try to believe that. I promise it's true. But the Sulfurous is a little bit different. So we have a lot more data around Sulfurous now. We ultimately know that it's probably best suited for shamans, and like warriors don't really use it as much because they prefer a sword or an axe, something along those lines. I personally don't have a hard stance on who gets Sulfurous. What I do have a hard stance on is that Sulfurous in general is not the biggest upgrade in the world, but it costs a hell of a lot of money. So if you're interested in getting the Sulfurous, let me know. Know that the person that is interested, that we decide to actually gift that to, will be paying a lot of money to be able to get those materials. And we'll help out and we'll offer discounts, but there will be a guild level agreement because those ingots, all those materials for Arcanite bars, I think it takes 50 of them. That is not cheap. And for a minor upgrade for what is essentially not an optimal spec, I'm not interested in shelling out the entire guild bank to get somebody that I am. So something to keep in mind. As we, get to later legendaries, we'll have different conversations on that too, but that's not going to be for a while. So let's talk about raid time. So many of you probably already seen it. Our current idea for raid times, at least for our first group, will be Tuesdays and Thursdays at 8 p.m. to 11 p.m. Eastern time. That's 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. Pacific. And that's sort of where we currently stand. I saw the sheet. Many people are free Tuesdays and Thursdays, so I think we're in good shape. But know that this is still a conversation that can take place as we see more 60s get ready to go. We can figure out where we might need to adjust if necessary. But also know that as we get more 60s in place, we have a very, very strong desire to form a second group, and maybe even more as we progress. That's actually something that we did not scale very well in BC, which led to us disbanding. I don't want to make that mistake a second time. So we've already had conversations. We already know what we want to do for a second group. More than likely, we know that Grobbulus is, time zone agnostic since it's very unique. And we want to make sure that anyone that's going to be joining us, especially our Pacific Coast friends, feel like they're getting their time as well. So we're probably going to be looking at either a weekend group or a later night Eastern time or more reasonable Pacific time raiding group as well. More to come on that. If you're interested in joining any of those raids, obviously let me know. We'll figure out the times associated for it. All right, let's talk about raid. So raiders in general, I want to make sure that anyone that's going to be raiding, we are, like I said, I want to be effective. And back when we played before, we were slower on our pulls. We were very cautious. We we were not properly consumed with consumables. We did not do everything as optimally as we can. That won't be the case this time. Anyone that's coming to raids needs to come in with a very focused approach. That means proper consumables, which we'll talk about as we kind of ramp up. That means ideally somewhat of a proper spec, or at least a spec that you've cleared with your class off. It means just the right mindset, right? Like, we don't want people distracted. It's 40 people that are doing this together, and it's only 6 hours a week, but for some, that's a lot of time. I don't want to waste it. I don't want to sit around and kind of hang out between pulls and between bosses. When we're doing 40 people together, we are going. We are going as quickly as we can and as efficiently as we can while not being stupid about it. So I want to make sure that anyone that plans on raiding has the mindset that we are going to be doing this to the best of our ability and not kind of dicking around, because that's really in the end not going to help any of us, and it's going to piss off people that do have limited time. Specs are going to be fun. We know that MC and Oni are ultimately very easy raids. I'm not super concerned about the majority of specs for those raids, because if we can't clear an MC or an Oni raid with 60 people that are focused, then that's a different. But I do want to make it super clear that specs will obviously come into play over time. For anyone that's going to be joining us that is not the most ideal spec, whether it's a healing spec or a hybrid spec or even like a DPS spec, it doesn't really. If you're not an optimal spec,
Go ahead and repeat that, Hydus. You're cutting really bad in and out.
What that means is, I'm looking at the sheet and I see like 6 or 7 shamans that are all planning on speccing damage. As a former enhancement shaman, I respect the idea. I don't need 6 or 7 damaging people, damaging shamans in a raid. They're not.
Go ahead and stop right there. You're cutting in and out again. Maybe try leaving and coming back.
All right, cool.
There you go.
So if you're interested in raiding, we wanted to make sure that it's a good spec for the group. That should kind of go without saying. But if you're interested in, sort of a different type of spec, feel free to clear it with your class officer, or you can talk to me. I'll do my best to try to work my way through some of the classes. I'm not as familiar with all of them, but I can at least point you in the right direction. But definitely keep that in mind when we go to progress. Phase 3 BWL comes out, we'll have plenty of 60s, we'll have plenty of coordination at that point. Any brand new progression, we're looking for optimal specs. So if somehow in MC we get away with 3 elemental shamans for some reason, I want to make sure that when we go to BWL and we're clearing it for the first time, we are geared and we are spec'd correctly, because that will be a challenge for us as we get into these new raids. AQ and NAX are absolutely top of mind as well. Attendance is pretty straightforward. Be on time. The raid starts at 8 o'clock, so that means we are pulling at 8:01. So if you can't log on until 7:55, then log out outside the instant. Start heading over there whenever you're ready. I want to be ready to go, because 3 hours a night is not a ton of time. Though once we get MC on farm, 3 hours is very simple. We should be able to clear MC 3 hours, no problem. And then lastly, as I sort of mentioned a few times already, but just to call it out, class officers will be helped. So as we announce more and more class officers, just work with them on what you want to do. When it comes to loot, when it comes to spec, when it comes to anything, they'll be working with you. Just know that class officers will be playing a pretty major role in making sure our raids are very effective. All right, PvP. So first and foremost, if you have not looked at our PvP channel, our PvP officers, Tark and Az, posted up a code of conduct. I highly recommend reading it, as it does kind of meet our standards for what we're looking for. Ultimately, we are on a PvP server, so if you see something that's red, you're going to kill it, which is always exciting. If you are worried about PvP in the real world, and no, not everyone is looking to PvP, that's fine. If someone's jumping you and you need help, let us know. We have plenty of people that are more than excited to go out there and make sure that, you are not only protected, but our name is, you know, shouted out angrily. So, you know, keep that in mind as you're going through PvP. We don't want to make anyone else's experience really bad. If you're camping a level 15, that's not good. Like, let them play. It's not that big of a deal. You're level 60. But if you're getting ganked or if there's any issues, talk to us. We are happy to help you out. Our guild has plenty of PvPers that are ready to go out at a moment's notice. We will have a supported blacklist and kill on site and potentially even guilds. I know I've had a couple in mind just looking at the Grobbulus Discord, but we'll keep an eye on that and see how things are going. But we'll want to make sure that anyone that is interested in PvP, if there's a name that's called out, that's the person we're going to kill. Just kind of makes for a good world environment. We do plan to have pickup groups for world PvP, so keep that in mind. Want to make sure that, you know, if you are interested in any sort of world PvP, we'll have quite a few groups ready to go. We actually have sort of a bridging group where we have 3 hours for one, and it'll bleed into a 3 hours directly following based on our EST and PST friends. And then finally, around PvP, we'll have some future honor grind teams in place. I'm already working with some other guilds. I'm already talking to some people. We're going to make sure that we have an effective honor grind system for anyone that does want to get to, you know, rank 14, for example, or one of the higher rank. Lastly, I want to briefly touch on RP. So this guild is not a dedicated RP guild. We're not RPing in like guild chat, for example. You know, like that's not kind of their standard. But I know a lot of people are interested in RP, and I want to make sure that we are represented in RP events, or that if you are interested in RP, that you get the respect and the, you know, dedication that you deserve. So, you know, I would just encourage anyone that's here to respect those members. Let them have their fun. Feel free to join them. I can promise you RP is actually pretty exciting. And over time, if we feel that there's a pretty exciting desire to have more RP in the guild, I am absolutely open to an RP officer that can help us out with some more events for the guild, as well as coordinating across guilds. As I mentioned, Kalai is going to help out with community management, and she might help to fill in that role. But for anyone that has a really big desire to RP, let me know. I'm happy to chat about it. Okay, we're almost there, guys. Let's keep plowing through this, and we'll get to questions in a minute. I know some are already coming in, which is great. Guild dues. This has been a bit of a hot topic. And the first thing I would say is, if you are not familiar with our guild dues system that I've talked about before, I recommend checking out the guild strategy text channel that's inside the Discord, as I posed the question to many people as I wanted input from everyone. This is one of those things I mentioned for transparency. I want to make sure that everyone is involved in the conversation. There's genuine buy-in. Really, what guild dues are going to look like is, as I mentioned, we are one collective. So as a team, we should be contributing to one another's success. And I want to make sure we do that with the idea of guild dues. Now, guild dues are not going to rob you. You know, I'm not trying to steal all your resources and hoard them. Guild dues are to make everyone else's lives easier. You get a new piece of gear, here's the enchant you need, no questions asked. We get a new pattern that drops, here's the item that you got from the pattern, don't even worry about it, it's for you as a member of the guild. You're looking to have new bags created, yep, there you go, not even a concern. Guild dues should be they should be helpful. They should lead to, you know, anyone that needs something to feel like they can get it without having to try to play the economy or work with other people. As I mentioned, we are an independent guild. We'll work with others, but I want to make sure you guys feel supported. Anything you need, ideally we'll have it. Now, guild dues, in terms of how we're going to pay those out, will be based on. Right now, the ranking system is very simple. You have the leadership side of things, and then right now I have social and I have initiate, and eventually I'll open up a raider rank for those that are actually interested in raiding. Odds are I'll create more ranks over time as I work with the other officers and whatnot, and really work with everyone that's interested. But I don't want to make that too granular right now. I'd rather it be very, very open and very scalable. But what that's going to mean is, as we identify the ranks that we want to use, we'll associate dues to those. I want to make sure that if you are raiding, that means you're contributing more often, you're playing more often. So ideally you are, you know, getting the things you need, but you're also going to have to pay a little more than someone's paying 5 hours a week. Now, solidified exactly what those numbers are going to be yet, because we have not solidified the actual ranking system outside of the social idea right now. What I can say is that we don't have plans to charge dues anytime soon. They would happen probably prior to the week prior to the first raid. I want to make sure that anyone that is concerned or questioning about it, obviously you can reach out to me and let me know. But this is not something that I'm gonna expect, especially while level. I can say that anyone that is going to be in a leadership position will be contributing more, because again, it's about the success of the guild, so leadership will be expected to deliver more on that. But really, it's going to be exciting. I want to make sure that you guys feel like you're supported and you have the tools and the items that you need to be the most effective. So more to come on dues and more specifics there. But if you have any concerns or questions or makes you a little bit uneasy, reach out to me. I'm happy to talk about it, and I'm happy to get some input, because I want to make sure that we do it the right way and not in a way that people feel a little bit uncomfortable with. All right. Last thing, just the current needs of the guild. Just a couple things to kind of call out. Right now, I feel like we are on a very good track with our leadership and our officers. I wanted to make sure in the very beginning that we had people in place to help out with, loot master priorities and other sorts of, banker, PvP coordinator, things like that. And I feel like we're in a pretty good spot. Really, what I'm looking for at the moment, at least I will be over time, I'm not expecting an immediate answer, will be more class officers for each respective class. Right now, I have mage and rogue. Two veterans from back in Requiem's old days, have decided to step up and take those on. Anyone that's interested in taking on a class officer position, let me know. I'm happy to talk about that and see where that stands. I don't want to jump the gun and make decisions very quickly. So if I delay a little bit, I apologize. Know that it's more to make sure that, especially for people that are fairly new to the guild, I just want to make sure that the fit makes sense for not just myself, but for everyone within that class. But really, at the end of the day, if you're interested, let me know. I want to talk about it. Also, we're looking for guild crafters, some more of them. We have a number that have already been determined. If you go to our channel around professions, you can actually see that. But we're looking for more, specifically like blacksmiths and leather workers and things like that. Really, I can say that we have a lot of people that are going to be herbalists and miners and skinners and enchanters, which is awesome. Like I said, the materials will be super helpful for us. But if you are interested in taking on a crafting position, let me know. We'll be sure to feed you all the materials that we can to get you up there quickly and make sure you have all the rare pattern. But also, anyone that's interested in crafting, or I'm sorry, in gathering, awesome. We will actively be reaching out to you to make sure we have everything we need for our guild bank. And very last thing around the current guild, I highly expect that many people will reach out around wanting to find a guild as we're leveling and kind of getting up there. Rather than just go through a whole initiation process. I mean, many of you we have not played with before, so it'll be very new. But rather than make a full application process before a game's even available, I want to keep it open. So keep it open, let people join if they feel the need to. Obviously, we want to have some standards, like I mentioned, being fun and professional and whatnot, like all those different kind of philosophies that we should be following. So I'll make sure it's a good fit, good cultural fit. But if you feel like someone could be a good fit, let me know, or let one of the officers know. Anyone in the leadership position will have the ability to G-invite at launch. So just keep that in mind. If you find someone awesome, you don't feel like you have to fill out the ranks if you don't need to. We actually have quite a few people that are already interested in playing with us. But anyone that does want to join up, great. Just let us know. Whew. Okay. That is all that I wanted to run through from an agenda perspective. I know there are questions. Let's run through those so we can geek out about Classic for the next hour and change.
We do have a few questions. First, I just want to say, Heidish, you did a great job, man. Everything sounded real good, man. I think I can speak for everybody when I say that we're really excited to finally log in, get all this theory crafting and all this class work that we've been doing to good use. And we are only an hour and 10 minutes away, guys. An hour and 10 minutes away. But without further ado, guys, let's jump into a couple questions here. We have 3 questions from Discord, 1 question from chat. Some of these may sound like we've answered them before. We want to go ahead and ask just to make sure that there are no questions about anything regarding the guild. So first, we have a question from Grief. It says, how will the guild bank work? As we are leveling, is there anything particularly that you want us to hold on to and contribute rather than auction house?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we actually came up with a pretty long list of items that will be useful for us. And then we're happy to post that somewhere. It's pretty extensive, so I don't necessarily expect anyone to be able to memorize it first. But really, whatever you feel is appropriate. Like whatever you think is going to help us more in the end game. I can tell you right now at launch, unless you're taking on a guild crafting role, the guild bank is not interested in taking on like Malachite or Tiger's Eye or whatever. Like we're not managing that right now. We need to keep the guild bank somewhat in control. So I wouldn't worry about anything kind of the lower mats by any means. If you find some that you get, obviously feel free to vend those or sell them in auction house. But if the guild, if you want to help out the guild in any way, and someone's interested in taking on that crafting position, feel free to send it either way. I know they'd be happy to get the support. Like I said, we're all kind of working this together. But for the most part, we can provide the list and give you sort of an update. A lot of the high-end herbs or elixirs, like all the potions, things like that. Really anything we can take there. If you have, if you can make like Mooncloth or Arcanite bars, any of those, we'd be happy to, kind of take those on, and we can help provide mats for those as well. That's our goal. But really, at the end of the day, whatever you feel is appropriate for you to contribute is great. It's not a forced thing to contribute just to the general guild bank. It's more of a helpful thing. But we are going to be tracking that, because at the end of the day, if you are looking to get things from the guild bank to help you out with your enchants and whatnot, that's not just based on dues. It's going to be based on, if you want 5 enchants that are, roughly 500 gold, ideally you've contributed a little bit to kind of help us out with that a little bit, whether it's ore or something else.
All right, that sounds good. That sounds good. Next question we have from Vasha, asking, how will you guys be going about filling the 40-man slot for raids? And what about people who would like to raid but will be running late? Will they be excluded, or will they still be able to join, or is there some kind of something that we have in place in between?
Yeah, so let's kind of break that down. I did mention some of this earlier, but we can talk about it again. In the beginning, especially for MC and Oni, the first 2 phases essentially, we will kind of take what we can get, right? Like everyone's leveling, it's all very fresh. Everyone's determining their overall time commitment, totally understandable. So as we get more people involved, then we'll be taking those people on to raid, and we'll kind of feel everyone out. So there'll be a lot of kind of back and forth to make sure that we all feel good about the people in the raid, make sure that everyone is ready to go, and make sure that people are following that focused mindset, right? We're all trying to get through the raid quickly and effectively and efficiently. And ideally, in a spec that helps us out the most, though I'm open to a few hybrid specs. We can talk about that more in depth later. As we start progressing, we'll be a little more fine-tuned. I want to make sure that we can progress correctly. And there are instances where it is hard to progress with, too many of one class, or too many of a spec that's not optimal. And I want to make sure that we follow that sort of mindset, and that we can, we're all kind of playing the same game, so we all understand that there are better specs and others, better classes and others, better situations than others. But because we're not hardcore, I don't want to make anyone feel left out. So I would say that it's still kind of up for discussion, but my immediate response is that we are trying to do this the best we can. So hopefully that'll be, with the right people and the right classes and everything else. I don't know if I answered everything in the question, though.
It sounded pretty good. Just yeah, it sounded pretty good. I think you covered everything there. Basha asks again, What about joining the raid group in Phase 2 Plus? And what is to be expected if joining at that time?
Yeah. And actually, it brings me back to the first question too. There's one part I left out, which is the late, like joining late. I mean, I'd like to be optimistic, but I'm also realistic in this sense, especially playing vanilla before. So people drop out during raid. Things happen. Things come up. So we'll be looking for people that want to fill in if that situation occurs. But as I sort of mentioned, we only have 3 hours a night for 2 nights, at least to start. At least that's our plan anyway. And I want to make sure that we start on time. So ideally, we have all 40 people ready to go at 8 o'clock. If for some reason we can start pulling, like we can pull trash while we're waiting. Like I said, we killed Lucifron with 27 people. Anything is possible in MC. Oni's a little bit different because it's so short to get to her. But really, I want to make sure that we are starting the raid at 8 o'clock. But if things happen and people drop out, then we will, we'll work on summoning you. We'll try to get some people in there. But we'll also, as I mentioned, be trying to look at a second raid group to fill out those later times for anyone that would be later. When it comes to Phase 2, so on the sheet, many of you put in your projected times to get to 60. That's just to level to 60, right? That's not including, getting pre-bis and getting your consumables and everything else, because half of the raid is a raid preparation prior to the raid, right? Getting ready for it. So I would expect that Phase 2 will see a lot of people ready to go. And that'll be where we're trying to iron out some of the things that we need to be ironing out, whether it's looking at extra raid group, whether it's figuring out different classes and specs that we need. Really, at the end of the day, I want to keep it fluid. I want to keep it open for discussion because I don't want to exclude anybody, but I also want to make sure that we are, for those that are there from the very beginning, that are, filling out the needs that we have, that they're there, and they're rewarded as such, because they're putting in that time. But I don't want to exclude anybody at all. So if you feel like you are having problems joining the raid group, whether it's already full, or whether you feel like you can't join the raid for X, Y, and Z, whatever it is, absolutely come talk to me, because we can figure out solutions. We can figure out ways to make this work. As I mentioned, it's all about being successful, right? I want to make sure that we are successful and stronger as a group. What that means is that there could be situations where people sub out simply to help out others. That it's all a big question mark right now, but in a good way. I want to keep that up in the air so that we can have positive conversations when the need comes up.
Josh, do we have anything else?
Apologies, my mic was muted. Yes, we do. We have about 3 or 4 more questions. Do we have time for that?
Okay.
Let's do it.
Alright.
We have WoW Classic in 1 hour and 2 minutes.
1 hour and 2 minutes, baby.
I know. So we'll take some more questions, and then we'll, kind of get off the stream and kind of geek out for a little while, and then we'll jump in and, deal with the hours it takes for us to even log into the world. It's gonna be great.
Our next question comes from Discord. It says, how do we plan on buying the guild charter?
So here's my thing. From what I've heard, from what I've seen in the beta, from what I saw in stress tests and everything else, the guild charter is only 10 silver. Now, I've heard mixed answers to that, but if it is 10 silver, I'm just going to cover it. It's very easy to cover 10 silver. It's going to be fine. And if it is 10 silver, I will be in Orgrimmar, so I'll be trying to get the other 9 signatures I need to get the guild up and running as quickly as I can. And then we're going to blast out invites based on this roster sheet. If the guild's charter is like 10 gold or some nonsense like that, will take more time. And as soon as I can get it together, I'll get it together. But I don't expect anyone to have to contribute to that unless we feel like there's a huge need. But I'll keep you guys posted. Let me get to org. It'll take me a few hours, and then we'll go from there.
All right, we'll get these done real quick then. That sounds good. Our next question comes from LOL Butter, asking which crafters are most needed.
You cut off.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Our next question is from LOL Butter, asking which crafters are most needed.
So I can tell you, looking at our sheet right now, we have a good number of certain crafters. So we have a lot of alchemists. We actually have a lot of tailors, and we have a decent amount of enchanters as well. We have a decent handful of engineers. We have we have no blacksmiths currently, at least none that have called themselves out, and we have only a handful of leather workers. Now, um, we are, as I mentioned, we are calling out specific guild tailors and guild crafters and everything else. Like, basically what that means is when we find rare patterns, it'll go to that person, and they'll be solely responsible to make sure that if someone needs that thing, then they'll get it. Um, so we don't have any of those for a lot of the blacksmithing and leatherworking professions yet. I think we have an alchemist. I think we have a tailor. I think we have an enchanter, and we might have an engineer, but I could be wrong. I have to go double check. So really, what I would say is, at the end of the day, pick whatever professions you feel like. But if you want to take on that extra responsibility of kind of helping out the guild and like owning a profession, a crafting profession, come see me. I'm happy to chat about it.
All right, Titus loves to help out. Our next question is from Madam Small, asking Loot Council question above. How will you avoid favoritism from class leaders?
That's a good one. So, quick story. Back in the day on Scylla, there was a guild. I won't say their name, but there was a guild that did the loot council system, and this guild, you could tell right away that their class officers were decked, and everyone else was just screwed, right? And I hated that. That's actually one of the reasons that we decided on DKP originally, because I saw that and I saw a level of corruption and I couldn't stand it. What it's going to come down to is we have officers in place that'll be managing loot and kind of auditing that and making sure that it's being tracked effectively. And we'll have class officers that are going to be divvying out loot as necessary, with myself being the decider if there's ever a debate. I'll be reviewing those logs pretty regularly, and I'll be making sure that if I see a pattern where someone's getting a little more gear than others, that will be handled. But I'll also say that anyone that's going to be taking on the class officer positions, that's kind of an expectation. I don't want anyone taking on a class officer spot that is coming in thinking that they're going to get gear first, because odds are, if you're a class officer, you won't be. You'll probably be giving gear out to some of the others first, because your goal is to help out everyone. And class officers will more than likely be in more or less the full prebis set, or at least close to. But I would say that I plan on being very diligent on class and loot council items in general. I want to make sure that you guys feel like it's fair, and not something that, you start to realize that someone's getting way more gear than others, with the exception of obviously like the tanks and whatnot.
Which makes the most sense. Now, this question kind of, I think, is answered by your last question. I'm going to ask it just because it was asked in the chat. But if you feel like you missed anything, or if there's any other way we can lay it out.
Sure.
Z Hecken asks about the Loot Council. Do you tend to prioritize the biggest upgrade or most deserving? More deserving players tend to play more and therefore tend to have generally better gear already, i.e. The BIS gear, kind of what you were just touching on.
So it'll be a combination of variables. I do want to make sure that the gear that we are allocating out is impactful. So what that means is, if you have a piece of gear that, is only 2 or 3 spell damage off from the upgrade, for someone that's like 20, like, let's talk, you know what I mean? Like, it makes sense to award that to the person that is lower there. But I don't want to count out contribution and participation, nor do I want to count out how loot's been distributed. If someone is just constantly getting gear upgrades because it's most impactful, it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense, because they're going to get geared out very quickly, especially some that comes in with like green. So anyone that's in Prebis, I don't want you to be too concerned, because while you may not get all the gear immediately, you will still keep up with gear, because we will be tracking that and making sure that those people that are not getting gear as quickly, there's a reason why. Or at the very least, those that aren't getting gear as quickly, odds are, it's an assumption, but I feel like it's about, if you are in full Prebis, you probably have your eyes on a couple very specific items immediately, And I would highly recommend that if that's the case, then you work with your class officer to call that out. Because while you might want certain things, if you say that this is the thing I really want, and that's known ahead of time, then that'll be taken into consideration as we're getting new gear anyway. So yeah, just open communication. Talk to me, talk to the class officers. Like we'll figure that out. But I want you to feel concerned that you're not going to get gear while someone else in greens is getting crazy up, because you are putting in the time and the effort, and you do deserve the upgrades, just like everyone else. What else you got, Tark?
All right, that looks like it's gonna do for our Q&A section for today.
Cool. So it's been fun. I've had a good time. I hope this has been insightful for everyone, and we'll post it up somewhere so you guys can reference it if you need to. I look forward to sending out mass invites and seeing you guys all in the guild and having our tags over our name. And as I mentioned multiple times, just to call out again, if there's any other questions, right? If you ever have ideas or concerns or doubts or anything at all, I prefer to just have conversations about it. You know, harboring any sort of like negative ideas or resentment's never going to be great for the guild. So if you're ever having anything at all that comes to mind, or if you have ideas that you think would be useful, I want you to feel like you are heard and you are respected, and we are going to do this together. So just keep me posted on things. But other than that, I mean, have fun, guys. We've been waiting for a while.
Hey folks, this is Dre. I'm going to give you the ability to speak in the channel if you'd like to talk amongst yourself. I think you might need to leave and rejoin, but feel free, folks.
Titus Medic from Vanilla would like to say hello.
Oh man.
Oh man. Oh man. Oh my goodness, if you could read the chat, man.
I can only imagine. It's exciting seeing all these old names and faces come back.
Did they fix noggin foggers for druids? I don't know.
I have no idea.
I'm moving
Druids will
down
be
a
a
couple
mystery to me.
channels. Thanks for joining us, folks.
I don't think I missed anything, did I, guys? UGA is the best college football team. Agreed. Taxation is theft. In case you didn't know that. Do you accept bribes for gear? Do you accept Venmo?
Oh my
From,
god.
from one of our PvPos as...
No, I make good money, thank you.
He's good. He doesn't need your bribes. Oh.
Do you accept handy J's for gear?
Handy J's
I
for gear.
do accept sexual favors.
All right.
That's
I
a
got
real
two
thing.
hands.
Yeah, only if it's two hand.
Yo, who's a UGA fan?
Josh.
Who's that?
Tark.
Oh shit. Okay. Okay. That's cool.
It's the coolest. Loot for reach arounds by Grief.
I graduated from there.
Did you really?
Yeah.
Good for you for getting good enough grades to go to UGA.
I don't know about that. Let's not get ahead of ourselves.
I
Some people
snuck
look really
in.
bad.
2-hour queue times already. Yeah, but this is pre-launch though, guys. I wouldn't jump the gun on it.
Well, if our character select is there, we're fine, right?
Yeah, I'm getting a couple messages from people saying 2-hour queues.
I just got immediately into my character.
Get off your Starbucks Wi-Fi. Go get a hardwired connection, guys, because they're getting in. Reach around for reach around's sake. Can I Venmo somebody? Can I Venmo someone else to give you favors for my loot? How would one go about having access to the Discord? Let me send you the Discord link. Is there going to be a point system, or is it just decided by leadership for each? Yeah, guys, we got the loot thing. any additional questions that you guys have, let me make this like a quick point. Yes, we're having a meeting now because we're less than an hour away from launch, right? This is not your only opportunity to ask us questions, for you to talk to leadership at all, guys. We're gonna be 100% available, not only on Discord, but me, like myself, Dre, Hugs or Hydus, and Paul will all be playing together for the next week. 12 to probably 14 hours a day. You can always come in to the Discord. Me and Dre are both streaming the entire time, guys. So you're going to have full access to us for any questions that you have regarding loot, regarding guild charters, regarding leveling system, dungeons, PvP, PvE, anything that you guys have questions about. We're here to answer that in any way that's convenient to you. Is there anything that anyone else would like to add? I'm a little bit disappointed in the lack of Hydus's mom jokes throughout the meeting.
Listen,
That's not a joke.
I swear to God,
Badass
if there's
is
a
real.
pile of corpses in Orgrimmar again, all with my mom.
Bodies go away.
Oh my God.
That won't happen.
You know
Oh, no,
what
no,
to
no.
do.
In
Unfortunately,
vanilla.
it's not gonna
You
work.
know what to do,
They
guys.
Right,
didn't
but
go-
they
they change it?
go away now. Yeah.
Oh, that's
It's too hard
I guess
to
it's better.
change Twitch name.
yeah. In
Our
vanilla,
Discord is pretty heavily active.
Someone
Yeah,
just
for
decided
sure.
to do it. I was just hanging on Orc as one does, dancing on the bank one day, and I see a naked troll run in with Hydus's mom tag.
It was a terrible person too.
It was me.
That jerk was.
It's been a long.
Well, so here's the thing: is that person runs up to the flight tower, jumps off, runs back up, jumps off, runs back up, jumps off, kills himself, and then I see another and another and another, and soon enough, there's like 30 or 40 or 50 bodies of just Hydus's mom spread across Orgrimmar, all outside the bank and auction house. And they were there for like a week.
Yeah,
I,
because
so
you do
great.
it right before reset day. Or
unbelievable.
right after reset.
Yeah, it was pretty amazing.
One of my favorite memories of WoW right there. Just all the Hydus's mom's corpses, that and Dre spamming Backstreet Boys lyrics in Orgrimmar.
Can't do it on Dre, but believe me, I'll have a tune who's ignored by everybody on the server.
Sorry, did you say something?
Do we have a picture of that moment? Is it not in the Requiem media thing?
The corpses?
Yeah.
I don't know, man. I don't think so.
Who dropped the ball on that?
I don't know. I think he just kept laughing and I didn't take a screenshot.
That was an amazing moment. It's okay, guys. It's okay. Classic is here again, and we can do anything. But yeah. How about you, Dre? You got anything you want to add?
No, not really. I'm really psyched about what's about to happen, and I think I might need to get an extra cushion for my chair. I'm not sure my butt's got enough to handle what's about to happen.
Oh man.
You already feeling it, dude? Because we haven't even started yet.
Nope, not feeling it, expecting
You
it.
better buck up, Buttercup, because we got a lot of WoW to play.
We just got
For those of
another-
you who
Nutshots.
don't know, we will be doing a nasty dungeon grind for hours and hours and hours at a time. I'll be streaming it live. Josh will be Tark will be streaming it live on his channel. For
Yeah, and Dre's Twitch is linked in the chat, guys. You can jump over to that now if you want.
I'm not live.
But we are literally live. Yeah, he's not live. We will be live nonstop for the next week. If you ever want to drop in, ask Hydus a question, ask myself a question, or if you're stuck at work because you can't know life with us, we would love to have you in, and we can make you all jealous because
Twitch doesn't pay me, so don't worry about any ads you watch.
I don't get ad revenue either, yo.
That's what I'm saying.
That's a little above my pay grade, dude. Dungeon grinds. Yeah, we're beasting through dungeons. That's how we're gonna be leveling. Me, Dre, Hydus, and Paolo.
Yeah,
for
we're
the
gonna be
follows,
following
guys.
we're gonna be following Hacker Eyes guy. So complete dungeon grind, melee cleave group. It's gonna be wild. It's gonna be so funny because apparently we should be able to level incredibly quickly without too much concern, but like really good gear. So I don't know, man. I'm really excited for the experiment.
It should be a ton of fun. I mean, just from, and I think I can speak for the leadership in this regard too. They keep me in the dark about most things, but we're really excited about just the turnout so far. The amount of people who have filled out their sheets on Discord. I mean, I think that number by in and of itself has surpassed what we expected. The activity on Discord is amazing. Just everything looks really, really, really good, guys. We want to be a presence in Grobbulus. A good presence, you know what I mean? Like we want to be a guild that's known for not only completing content and PvPing, but just a place where if someone wanted to, they could come in, have a great time, and meet a bunch of really, really cool people. And so far from, I think, the people that we've been meeting, we're already there. Like we're at a place before the game even starts that I think is really, really good.
Yeah, I can't stress enough. I mean, the fact that all these people came back after 10 plus years, for some of them, for many of them, the fact they all came back together under the same banner, under the same, like connections that we've had we have a really unbelievable culture. Like we have a really solid group, and I'm excited for the presence that we're gonna bring.
Yeah, we really do.
Ishu, is that you?
Is it? Is this working?
It is.
Ishu!
Hey! I couldn't find the ports. I was like, where are the ports on this thing?
Now we have
Thank you for the follows, guys. I
solid,
really do
a solid
appreciate
foundation.
it.
A lot of people that have known each other for a long
Butter,
time, which is where
G-Pat.
I feel very confident in saying that not only are we going to be able to do all the things we want to do really well, but also you're not going to have to worry about, getting screwed over on loot or, like any sort of weird issues or drama. Like we've known each other for a long enough time where that's not really going to be a concern. Hopefully.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. It's that we're of the age now, I would like to think, or at least, the ones that we know that came back, at least, we're a little bit past G quits, because of, something minuscule. It's just a game at the end of the day, guys. I mean, we're all excited about it. We're all going to enjoy it. But we can still be, reasonable, mature, and just keep the, you know what I mean? I mean, I don't know. I'm not speaking for everybody. I'm just going to speak for the ones I know. I don't know.
Cool. Well, I'm gonna go get some things ready. So, Tark, thanks for having. We'll be doing some dungeon grinds. So we'll be chatting some more. Looking forward to hanging out with you guys.
Yes. All right, guys. GG's. 42 minutes. If you guys don't have your Mountain Dews, Cheez-Its, and assorted chips ready, I'm disappointed. Go get your stuff ready, guys. You're most likely going to be stuck in some queues at least for a little bit.